Did you know that November is National Gratitude Month? Well, a guy who knows how to say thank you, JD Slajchert, is with me, and he's written a book called Darling, You're Not Alone. And there's kind of a connection with this Gratitude Month and the book. JD, nice to have you with us.
Carlos, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me, for taking the time, and I'm looking forward to talking about Gratitude Month and also my new book. It's going to be exciting, so thank you.
Well, no, it's our pleasure. So this is interesting because, there's an old school thought, and very few people do it now, and that is send a handwritten note just to say thank you. The power of that is palpable, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's something I've been doing long before I started actually writing books. It's kind of a big part of who I've always tried to be. And I think sort of in our world, Carlos, like the idea of texts and phone calls and emails kind of get lost in this shuffle of like things that don't last very long. So letter writing for me has always been a sort of meditative thing that hopefully I can give to people I care about and thank them in a way that, will have a more tangible effect. So I've always sort of been doing that long before I wanted to write books. But yeah, it's a big part of who I am and a big part of this book too. So it's sort of those two things kind of came together in a very natural way. And I'm excited to talk more about that. But yeah, it's just a big part of what I try to be.
What happens when somebody gets a note like that? Just a simple thank you. What does it mean?
Oh my goodness. I mean, anytime I receive any notes like that, I hang on to all of them. And I have a special place in my office where I kind of collect them all. But I think my hope is that anytime anyone receives something like that from me, they have the sort of motivation to keep going. And they can go back and read it even at a later date. Like that's the whole point. Is it's something that lasts quite a long time, especially if you take care of them. Because most often, you read it in the moment, and I think you can kind of get some of the magic unlocked from it in that first read, but it's truly that second, third, fourth, fifth, even just glance at it on your desk that hopefully can be a sort of reminder of the light in your world. And yeah, I think letters have that capability.
Well, in your book, this whole idea for you was inspired by the book, and Darling, You're Not Alone means you are not alone. Give us a kind of a quick thumbnail sketch of how that all happened.
Yeah, I mean, thumbnail sketch, that's hard. I mean, I've been writing this book for 3 years, and it's become a huge part of my life. But I always had this idea that I wanted a character that had this sort of duty to deliver these letters and sort of be this kind of go-between for people. But I wasn't sure exactly how to get there in the book. And that was sort of just an early thought. So then I sort of wrote this book, and the main character's name is Phoenix, and he's our protagonist, and we follow him through this story. But he actually endures a school shooting incident at his high school, Darling High School in Darling, Colorado. And the book is set in the year 1999, and it's all about how this kid who, prior even to this incident, suffers from social anxiety, depression, and I think a lot of things that a lot of kids today are dealing with, and a lot of adults too. And it's all about how he endures this, horrific tragedy, yet has to find a way to come out on the other side and continue living his life. And it's through these letters that he ultimately tries to do so. So yeah, it's an intense book, but it's also a very hopeful one, and one that I hope can help a lot of people that are maybe going through a time as tough as Phoenix is.
I was going to say, the intensity of the book is what drives it home, and I think it makes an impact on you as you read it, that's exactly what's going to happen, is that you've got to find a solution, and the solution is as simple as just feeling that there are more than just you in the world, and that there are people who are willing to help you and reach out, and a simple note can certainly change that in a person's life.
Yeah, well said, for sure. I think it is these small things that ultimately help us through these tragedies, because unfortunately, Carlos, as you know, and anyone who lives and talks to people on a daily basis, there's tragedies all over the place. You take a look at what happened in Florida, you take a look at what happened in Uvalde just this summer. There's so many instances of horrible tragedy in our world, but my belief and kind of what I preach and is sort of my calling card is that if there are moments that exist in our world that are as dark as, you know, a hurricane or a school shooting or anything else in that front, you know, your house burning down in a fire, then there must be something equally as good existing out there. I wholly believe in that. But I think, unfortunately, sometimes it's very easy to forget that and focus on this negative side of humanity, despite all the beautiful things going on in our world. So this book is sort of this dichotomy between these two concepts.
Well, darling, you're not alone is the name of the book. And if you feel the need and the desire to reach out to somebody you think needs to hear from you, jot down a little note. Forget about the email. Forget about the text message. Do as JD Slajchert has suggested. Write a note, say thank you, and keep it simple. JD, thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I mean, I hope everyone out there that gets a chance to read the project enjoys it. But, you know, furthermore and more importantly, as Carlos said, the really important thing to keep in mind is just taking this idea into the real world outside the book, and hopefully passing on that gratitude. But thank you again for having me.
JD, my pleasure. Thanks so much for being with us.
Yeah, I appreciate it.